Okay, so yesterday I open up the Chicago Tribune, and what do I see? Dr. Phil. And this was right after we got done doing the live stream show. And I took a screenshot of it and I shared it with all my colleagues in independent media, from Jimmy to Do Dissidents to everybody, all my friends. Even Daniel laughed out loud. But the thing is, folks, we have to remember this whole deportation and migration crisis that we have in this country, real people are involved. Okay. And yes, criminals are being arrested. And I think we all can universally agree that, yeah, we don't want bad guys on the street, no matter who they are. If they're hurting people, bad guys go away. Simple as that. But there's a bigger concern because there's a lot of fear in the air. There's a lot of uncertainty. Many migrants are leaving the sanctuary cities, and it's abundantly clear that Chicago, especially Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, is all nothing but hot air. And while there is all these attempts of trying to take the Trump administration to court, ICE is not stopping, and they decide to almost make this into a reality TV show, almost, but they do, with Dr. Phil joining in on the ICE raids here in Chicago. I was listening to my good friends at Do Dissidents while I was actually getting this nice haircut. Overall, was their commentary on Dr. Phil coming here to Chicago, being part of the ICE raids. Do you know me? How do you know me? How do you know me? For all the cameras there to see. And I guess one can make the argument that he's trying to calm people's nerves, or that ICE is trying to put on the perception that, oh, we're only going after the real bad guys. Don't worry, folks. That's going to change real quick because Trump wants to beat Biden's and Obama's record, okay? This is Donald Trump we're talking about. He always has to be winning, always has to be number one. I mean, that's just who he is. So without further ado, since we've all seen this video now, let's share it for all of you to see. January 26th, Dr. Phil in the streets of Chicago. How do you know me?
What's your name?
Seda.
Seda what? You have a first and last name.
Sam.
Seda Sam?
Yes.
Where you from?
Where I was born or where I'm from?
Where you born?
Thailand.
You been deported before from the United States?
No.
Never been deported?
But I've been in the system before.
B&B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you been charged with
Charles Fair.
before?
I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna talk about lawyer.
Yeah. Are you a citizen?
You're not a law enforcement official, Dr. Phil, but okay. Are you a citizen? Who are you? Who are you?
My mom says that.
Your mother's a citizen,
Yes.
but you're not?
Nope.
But you've never been deported before?
You Dr. Phil. You look like Dr. Phil.
Yeah? How do you know me?
No, I seen her Dr. Phil.
We're rewinding this. This, I think it was Keaton who said it, or maybe it was Russell. But this is idiocracy. But my goodness, this is putting idiocracy to shame. Okay, I mean, at least in idiocracy, there was maybe a happy ending, as they're able to make sure that the plants drink water instead of Brando. It's what plants crave because it's got electrolytes. But what the hell is a reality TV star host doing, being associated and filming these raids? What this is trying to calm people's nerves down or put on the perception that everything's fine. They're only going after criminals. How do you know me? You've been on television for decades, Dr. Phil. You're on social media. PewDiePie, for Christ's sakes, has done video reactions to all the weird guests that you've had on your show. You even had Jack Doherty on your show, the guy who got banned off a Kick. And let me tell you something, folks. To get banned off a Kick, you got to be an all-star professional moron to do that. I mean, you got to do some really, 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 really bad stuff. Anyways, how do you know me?
You Dr. Phil. You look like Dr. Phil.
Yeah? How do you know me?
No, I seen her Dr. Phil, on TV.
Yeah?
How do you know me? I've seen you on TV. How do you know me?
But you've never been deported before?
You Dr. Phil. You look like Dr. Phil.
Yeah? How do you know me?
No, I seen her Dr. Phil, on TV.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is an example of sanctuary cities, right? We got an illegal alien convicted of sex crimes involving children.
Not necessarily. This is not an example of sanctuary cities. The idea, the concept of sanctuary cities was to provide relief and shelter for migrants fleeing war zones, political instability, or either that, a chance to restart their lives after their country faced a crisis. Now, why are many countries in Central and South America facing crisis? It's because, of course, the ridiculous war on drugs, which led to the rise of the cartels. Case in point, we can look back to the 1930s when the U.S. government began banning alcohol. What did that lead to? The rise of the mafia. I mean, let's be clear here. That's what happened. And of course, sanctioned coups, regime change wars, political instability. And of course, it's going to create a disaster. And a rational person with a family, or either that by themselves, are going to realize, hey, the longer I stay here, the closer I'll be to maybe being 6 feet under.
He's walking the streets of Chicago. Again, the downfall, the problem with the sanctuary city, that people like us walking the street rather than local law enforcement working with federal agents. This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah. You've been charged with sex crimes with children?
Now, the downfall of sanctuary cities is actually a little bit more simpler than that. There was no plan. Myself and Daniel, I keep repeating the story. We talked to activists and organizers. What's the plan? We even talked to politicians. What was the plan? What was the plan? All these protests, I mean, parades in front of Trump Tower. Hey, can we maintain this? Can we take care of people? There was no plan. All right. It was just setting up temporary shelters or shelters that, again, that had some very questionable living standards in it, and in turn caused more problems. There wasn't a plan. All what sanctuary cities were, in the long run, were feel-good points for Democrats and protesters to make themselves look better against Trump. That's the truth of it. That is the overall example of it. On paper, it sounds great, but in practice, it has led to disaster and more division. And I hate saying this, but this was a bad idea. And now, Trump being reelected, no one should be surprised that his administration is acting this way. And the mayor now, Mayor Brandon Johnson, has a lot to answer for because, once again, one of his campaign promises seems to be blowing up in his face as well, which says a lot about what's going to be in store for Chicago in 2027. I've told my colleagues in independent media, hey, keep an eye out for Chicago because it's going to be a powder keg.
Not really.
Not really? And never been deported?
Well,
Huh.
Let's take him in and process him, lock him up.
Got it, sir.
all right. Can you get a transport vehicle?
Working on it. Okay.
You know, I could already tell by looking at it, this is one of those cold Chicago nights. It's been pretty cold here in the city. You know, I could just tell just the way it's hitting Dr. Phil's face. You ain't ready for those cold Chicago winters. You should have been here when that polar vortex hit. Lakeshore Drive got shut down, don't you know? But continuing on, Mayor Brandon Johnson also had some words, and Mayor Brandon Johnson has a lot to answer for. Eric Husa tipped $5. U.S. Empire is a clown show that propagandizes Americans eat up like reality TV. Absolutely. This is all reality TV, and we are all spectators. The real-life Roman Colosseum.
This desire to popularize fear is unconscionable and abhorrent. There's no other way to describe it. We're talking about people's lives, and we fully reject the level of intimidation that this administration is trying to uphold. We're Chicago. We're built different. And we're not going to be afraid of anybody that is threatening the livelihoods and our economic structure in this city. I'm standing with the full force of government today to demonstrate that Chicago is a welcoming city. Regardless of who's in the White House, Chicago is a city that opens its arms to people from around the globe. We will continue to protect civil and human rights, and we welcome all individuals and families who want to work, live, and thrive here in our beloved city.
What I can tell you right now is that we don't have an exact number of Chicago people who have been detained, but what I can tell you is that the number in the Chicagoland area exceeds 100.
Yeah, so here we are now, and everyone needs to be made well aware of that Chicago is very well educated in defying ICE. Border czar says immigration crackdown leads to 100+ arrests, where, of course, again, Dr. Phil was present. Federal immigration authorities have arrested more than 100 people in recent days in the Chicago area. And yes, folks, I've been hearing some helos flying overhead these past couple of days. It kind of reminded me of my old days in Iraq. Wow, that's another helicopter, and that's another helicopter. What's going on? The city's police superintendent said on Tuesday, but an exact number has not been disclosed. While immigrant communities are on edge, President Donald Trump's handpicked border czar, Tom Homan, said outreach efforts by immigration advocates in Chicago and elsewhere, such as Know Your Rights workshops and pamphlets, are making it very difficult to arrest people because people are scared. People are in full-blown panic. There's a lot of uncertainty here. And yes, so far the records are showing they're going after the bad guys. But there's also reports showing where, again, non-violent migrants that are trying to restart their lives, are leaving too, their own volition, because they don't want to be wrapped up in the process. Because, having a couple agents at your door, getting arrested, it is a nightmare situation. Plus, the flight of being deported back isn't a lot of fun either. Later on this day on our social media, I will post an old school video where we here at Hard Lens Media actually covered a protest in front of the Gary Chicago International Airport way back in 2018. It's not a lot of fun to watch. It's very painful to watch and sit through because nothing has changed. And yet here we are now, many years after the first Trump administration, in which there was no plan to really protect migrants because there's a lot of confusion. Promises were made. Democrats made promises. A lot of organizations made promises. And now people are left to their own devices. And yes, there's the pamphlets, there's the workshops, there's the organizations. But in all reality, when push comes to shove, a lot of these migrants are on their own. ICE said on social media, it made nearly 1,200 arrests across the country on Sunday, almost 1,000 on Monday. The agency averaged around 300 daily arrests as of last fall, according to the Sun-Times. Superintendent Larry Snelling on Tuesday said he did not know the exact number of arrests made in Chicago so far, but has exceeded 100 people in the city and suburbs. What I can tell you right now is that we don't have the exact number of Chicago people who've been detained. What I can tell you is that the number in Chicagoland area exceeds 100, he said during a press conference. Immigration officials said in a statement this week that they are targeting potentially dangerous criminal aliens, but have not responded to Block Club's questions about how many were arrested in the city and whether any of them had criminal records. Or either that, hey, what's Dr. Phil doing there? How do you know me? I've seen you on TV. Dumb question of the day. Dr. Phil, were you just hungry when you made that question? How do you know me? My goodness, your career was starred by Oprah. Everybody knows you. You've been turned into a meme. Homan, who in December said mass deportations would start right here in Chicago, was in Chicago Sunday morning to oversee operations and work with federal agencies, recording the effort with television personality Dr. Phil. Ooh la la. It remains unclear whether ICE will carry out Homan's threat to make collateral arrests in Chicago, detaining undocumented migrants who aren't on the initial target of the raids, and that will happen. That's going to happen. But Snelling said Tuesday that ICE officials told his office the agency is focused on individuals with criminal convictions. Sooner or later, that list is going to dry up. It's going to burn up. And then they got to make a whole new list. And you know what's going to happen then? Nonviolent migrants will be arrested. Homan told CNN on Monday night that the focus will expand very soon. Case in point, being proven correct right here. Sanctuary cities are making it very difficult to arrest criminals. For instance, Chicago, very well educated. They've been educated how to defy ICE, how to hide from ICE. Homan said they call it Know Your Rights. I call it how to escape arrest. Come on. Hold on. Anyways, continuing on. Among those detained Sunday was a father in suburban Waukegan who was ripped from his home after ICE officials knocked on the door, said Pastor Julian Contreras, a community nonprofit United Giving Hope, who is working with the family. The man has a felony conviction of drug possession 20 years ago, according to court records. They didn't understand why he was being taken. Contreras said many people believe they already paid their retribution to society. The Tuesday press conference comes a day after Kentucky Republican U.S. Representative James Comer sent a letter to Mayor Johnson's office inviting him to testify in front of Congress next month at a hearing on sanctuary cities. According to the letter, Comer's committee is investigating sanctuary jurisdictions and their impact on public safety and effectiveness of federal efforts to enforce immigration laws of the United States. The committee is also asking the city of Chicago to provide documents, communications regarding the city's sanctuary status. This includes city officials, correspondence with city employees, state and federal officials, and anyone else related to Chicago's sanctuary status, according to the letter. Johnson on Tuesday deferred most questions about the letter and potential testimony to the city's corporation counsel, Mayor Mary Richardson Lowry, who said it was under legal review. Neither Johnson nor Richardson Lowry would say if the mayor intends to testify at the hearing. So, Chicago's welcoming city ordinance, also known as sanctuary city status, bars local police from assisting federal immigration enforcement. City officials also do not ask people about their immigration status, nor do they deny city services based on immigration status. So again, this isn't an FAQ document, but there is more raids happening. And of course, in regards to this, even Dr. Phil, before all the ICE raids happened, I want to pull this video up here. This was before he was on the ground.
I'm getting ready to meet with Tom Holman, and we're going to brief what's happening tomorrow, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, go over all the security protocol, because it's a pretty high risk mission that we're going on. This truly is a targeted ICE mission, because they're not sweeping neighborhoods like people are trying to imply. I know that because I've been involved in this heading into this. They've identified 270 high value targets. And what I mean by that is these are known criminals and terrorists. We're talking about murderers, child traffickers, child rapists. We're talking about bad actors, both in the countries they've come from and since they've been here in the United States. Some of these people have 12, 15 arrests, indictments, some convictions in their home countries and here.
Yeah, but that list is going to expand very soon. What this is a little salve, right? You know, little ointment on the wound. Don't worry about it. We're just going after the bad guys, and then we're rounding up everyone. Someone get Commissar Hans and Deputy Fritz. They'll be knocking on the door. Follow the orders and fall in line. And this is all in front of us in real time, where we could share on social media or watch on television, because nothing brings the family together than, witnessing none other than ICE officials locking up and rounding up people. But see, the thing is, there's a bigger problem here in Chicago, and that is the economic, social, and political crisis here in this city. All right. And this just goes beyond the sanctuary city status, because once the migrants are gone, and it's clear that this is going to happen, well, Chicagoans, there's still a long-term problem. That is, the city's still hyper-segregated. The city has a long history of every community being against each other, and our politicians continue to dance and drink while we argue and bicker. And I've been seeing a couple people bring that up in the comments section. Once this is over, once ICE does its quota, once ICE does all the rounding up, Chicagoans, the problem still remains in the city. The issues still remain. That is unchecked political corruption, hyper-segregation, and of course, people still being displaced from their homes, because gentrification is still running amok all across the city. Continuing.
But yet they're on the streets. And that's who ICE is targeting to bring out of these communities. So we're going after specific targets, not just sweeping neighborhoods and picking up anyone with a tan, anyone that looks like they don't belong here. Anybody belongs here. One thing
we're going after a certain shade. That's that's what he's saying, you know. Hey, We're going after a certain color, a certain shade here, right? You know, but he's saying we're not going after. I mean, come on, come on, come on. Who are we kidding here?
Thing I've learned about Tom Homan since I've come to know him, but he's got 3 objectives. 1, close the border, get it under control. 2, get the criminals, the dangerous people out of the communities and off the street. And 3, rescue these missing children. There are over 300,000 missing children. Some of them may be with family. That's fine. Let's identify that. Some of
And look, this is something that the Biden-Harris administration is going to have to answer for. The Biden-Harris administration is going to have to answer about the border crisis, because under that Democrat administration, there have been numerous reports of kids being trafficked. And yes, you even had Republican governors, such as the Republican governor of Florida and the Republican governor of Texas, who were sending migrants out via bus or airplane to sanctuary cities. And in turn, well, whatever happened to some of these people? Some of them did go into the shelters, but others went to the streets, or either that, perhaps they also got trafficked. There's a big question about what happened to a lot of these people. There are cracks in the system, and people can and will disappear. We live in a modern day where I never thought we'd see idiocracy, but idiocracy is here. It's been here for quite some time. I mean, if this passes for television, if this passes for entertainment, I dread and fear for the human spirit.
Nope.
But you've never been deported before?
We Dr. Phil. We look like Dr. Phil.
Yeah? How do you know me?
How do you know me? How do you know me? How do you know me? I don't know. Big time TV celebrity alongside with ICE agents trying to calm people down from their fears. But as Tom Homan said, that list is going to expand. It's going to expand wide. It's going to become a small net to a large net. And while, hey, going after bad guys, fine. But the fear is that list will grow. Welcome to 2025. And this is another promise that Trump has followed through on. And many of these Chicago politicians are now going to have to answer for the status of the sanctuary city policies that Chicago is operating under. And it's very clear that there's a lot of problems with how Mayor Brandon Johnson and the city took care of migrants, because it's not picture perfect. It's horrible all around. And the only people that are going to get hurt by this are the innocent men, women, and children. And this goes for migrants and residents who've been living in America, born in America. Because right now, this is how Big Brother spies on you. This is how Big Brother tracks you down. And I have ever hoped that maybe someday we'll get to that better future. But as long as you have reality TV slop like this infiltrating our brains and becoming normalized, we're going to be passive and not active in our local politics or on the national level either. I never thought I'd see this, because I'm laughing and I'm concerned at the same time.